Alright, welcome back today. We're gonna get started on this again, on how to replace a floor pan and the cab mount itself. Show you a couple things what I like to do to help figure it out when you go to put in a new floor pan. That way you make sure it gets relatively in the OEM location. Otherwise, if that doesn't matter to you, then this probably isn't the video for you, but that's okay. So anyways, initially this was actually rough cut already. There wasn't much left, but there was still something right here. But he pretty much just cut that out. And that kind of, doing a rough cut like that will help show you where the good metal is. So you could see this here. This is all good metal, nice and thick still. Oh yeah, and I apologize in advance. I have my torpedo heater on right now because it's like 20 degrees outside. So I'm trying to make myself a little comfortable in here. I think right now, yeah, if you can see that. It's almost 44 degrees roughly. All right, here's our floor pan here. Even came with all the pine needles. That's nice. Seriously though, when you go to handle this stuff, or really any sheet metal you're taking off, use some gloves. I feel like there's nothing worse than a sheet metal cut, especially like in your thumb, side of your fingers, and they bleed like crazy. So just avoid it all, wear gloves. So I'm gonna get ready to kind of hack this part out here and just see what we got, and we'll go from there. So we're gonna get cutting here in a second. All right, so see, now I got it all cut out. Definitely no turning back now. I drilled out those 2 rivets that hold the heat shield on. Wasn't too worried about it, like reference where it goes, because it kind of only fits on there, a certain way. So now we got it like that. So now, take our floor pan, scoot it in here. And I will tell you, they usually do cut these on the bigger side. They usually, like this lip up here, this is usually on the bigger side, which is good. You always want to be able to trim it down. So that's roughly where it is. Get your foot in there. Don't be scared, it's just metal. Let's see. There. You can see how so far it's not completely straight, and you got a gap there. I ran in that with the other side too. Not a big deal. What you want to do is just bend it up. That's all. Just to give you some clearance, and then you'll get this floor pan to sit down in here more like this, and then you can actually kind of kick it. And then once you get it to sit right, then you'll be able to see if you bent that up too far and you have to kind of fold it down some, or maybe you have to bend it up more. Well, something like that. We will just continue along doing that. So the other thing that's very helpful with this, get yourself a paint marker, or one of your kids' crayons, white crayon or something, I don't know, whatever you got. So I think you can see what I'm gonna do here. Just kind of be careful with that cut edge, because that'll cut you right open. Let's see, under here. Just try to do the best you can. Kind of draw a line there for yourself. I'm not cutting this, but this is just to let me know the flange where it overlaps. Clearance, so you can see what you're doing. Hand like that. Okay, so take this, put this back Like I said, don't be afraid to hit it. It's just metal. Fire. You'll see it moved a good bit. This already moved at least an inch. There we go. See that? See how much it moved? Just because I had to kick it like that. But just about where we need to be here. I mean, it's aftermarket, so it's not going to be exact. Because if you're going by that, it'll be really up to you. Well, now, see, I wouldn't even move it. I'm not going to because it's sitting right here. Initially, I was looking at this, and I was like, oh, yeah, I could probably go down this way more, but it's already sitting here, here. It's actually sitting up here really well. And that initial, and then, geez, you just saw it too when I moved real quick. It's sitting pretty good right now. Yeah, that's not bad at all. I'm gonna take you on the inside. I'll show you. See how I kind of have it wrinkled up, but it's almost in that corner. Some spots here, right here, that I did a little too much, a little bit too much there. I still need to kind of roll it back like another 1/4 inch. But that's not a big deal. And then there's another advantage to doing this too. And I did this a long time ago because I was kind of in a hurry. Where, you know, you gotta get to work tomorrow and you're rolling this up, like this corner, rolling this up. Don't even bother trimming it. Just lay it against here and you can just stitch weld it or spot weld it. And then seam seal it, do what you gotta do. Get you to pass inspections and all that. See, that's how it's sitting up there in that front edge. And originally this inner rocker has a lip just on the inside like that. And then floor pan sits right on top and it's got spot welds like that, at least on the Ford. Mark my second rough line. And then I'm gonna actually trim that side off and then we're gonna test fit it again. Yeah, so for me, this is the second line here. So I'm gonna go on the outside of it and cut. Now, and this is not scrap either. Be surprised what you can use all of this for when it comes to patching things on that. So you want to set this aside somewhere. So now, we got all that there. This floor pan's sitting pretty much where it needs to be. Sort of. These aren't the screws that I wanted to use, but they'll work. These are big ones. Sit into it. I really just need one in this back corner just to kind of hold it from sliding back. Ollie, what's up, dog? Anyways, all right, I'll move my heater here while I was doing this work. I'll make it a little more comfortable. And I got my screws in, so it allowed me to, probably not even gonna use this line, but we'll see, I don't know yet. But it allowed everything to kind of sit down. Well, I actually took a hammer and chisel and kind of pounded that rolled edge down. So that's all good. Right on there, nice and flat. You can see it's pretty much flat on the inner rocker, other than the only reason it's bowed up is because it's just sheet metal. Like if I push it down, that should, I can't. Oh, there we go. Yeah, see, push it down, that's good. Nice and flat there. Still see my original line, but this is the new line. Got that screw there. So that's all sitting perfect, nice and flush. This looks good. And it'll fit just how it needs to be. And then that'll take care of the floor pan. But initially what I'll do is I'll probably get it tacked in place all the way around. Then once it's kind of all in there, I'll start fitting up the cab mount just to verify. You know, you always want to do that, especially doing multiple panels that are connected. Verify that I can get it where I want it before I completely weld this thing in. I took the time to do my pretty much final trim, and then I cleaned up the edges, both sides, the top and bottom of the floor pan and the cab itself, where that weld seam is. The other thing I will tell you is doing butt weld stuff like this. It is very helpful. You don't have to, but it's very helpful to get these little things. They have these at Harbor Freight for like, I don't know, 10, 15 bucks maybe. You get a pack of 10. So you can see how it sits on top. And then, if I can show you underneath. Okay, see it? There it is, that's underneath. That little bar goes through the straight piece, and then as you tighten it, it pulls up. And then it pulls those two together flush pretty much. I use this one to kind of hold it in place, and then I kind of maneuver this in here, and then this curve piece, as the contour goes up, right at the bend there, I got two there, and then right at the top. And you can see how it looks from this side here. Yeah, I got a little bit of a gap, but I'm not worried about that. I know I can do that. I still have to get the remaining cab mount that's welded to the bottom of that flange out. So this top edge will probably be the last thing I do. Anyways, back on the truck floor pan, you're gonna get all finished up. So I'll start running my tacks in. This went great. And you can see the front edge now. So what I did here is I actually had this tacked up. The floor pan was actually sitting on top of the original. So what I do there is, what do I do with it? Okay. Take my cordless grinder with a 40 thousandths thick cutoff wheel. Anything thicker, as gaps are going to open up a lot, so it makes it a little more difficult to weld, but yeah, just future reference. So I use that. I basically rode the top edge of the floor pan, cut through the original, and just went over. And I'm still kind of working my way over, so I work my way over. And then as I go along, I get my screwdriver in there, and then I pull down like this, and that'll push that panel inward. And then I just, once I get it flush, I throw some tacks in. So this is actually all flush. So that way when I'm all done and I clean this all up, this will all be nice and flush and cleaned up. There won't be any, lap joint or anything like that. So you see I have just a little bit left. I got about 6-7 inches here. Go to this corner, and then that'll be done. And I know this part here, out here more, this flange is trash pretty much from where this crunchy part is here over. I gotta replace the firewall, and then a little bit of that flange out there. Ooh, I guess that's the metal I'm cutting. By the way, don't grab this stuff barehanded. I'm just dumb, so, because that'll cut you wide open real quick. And if you know about metal cuts on your hands, they just bleed like crazy. All right, just wanted to show just real quick how I do, floor pans. Like when you gotta get them down to another piece of metal, so you can weld them to a flange. In this case, I have a flange here going on it's underneath. So what I do is, I don't know if you can see, there it is. So I got self-tapper. So I'll run the self-tapper in there. I'll run it in there, on each side of where I actually want to weld. That way it draws the panel down and around it. And then maybe a little tap at a hammer, but I'll double check I'll show you real quick. So I started up here. So I first drilled a hole here, and I drilled a hole here. And then I spot welded right here. And then eventually I'll go back through and I'll fill these holes up that I drilled with the self-tappers. So you see how nice and tight that seam is there. This is pretty good. It's not perfect, but that's where you want to be. So I'll work my way down doing it like that. So now that I got this one in, I'll pull this screw out and then I'll move it down to about here, drill a hole right around here, tap it down with a hammer, and then I'll weld it down there. And then same thing, I'll take this one out and then I'll work it there. So you kind of just like step it down. So I just wanted to show you that real quick. It makes for a good fitted panel, even if you were to just not butt weld it like I was, but even if you were just to lap weld it. And that, what I mean by lap weld is put this panel on top of the original. You have an overlap, and so you bring it over like that by so much, whatever it is, a ½ inch, an inch. You could do the same method just like that, and it's plenty strong if you do it like that. But in my case, I have the opportunity to do 100% weld, you know, penetration, so I'm going to do that. That's why I'm doing it like this. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that. So what I'm working on right now, this is part of the original cab mount, the flange that is, you know, spot welded to the bottom here. This side here worked out because that was the original spot weld, and I was able to just leverage it down with a flathead screwdriver, and you know, it just busted off. Yeah, so now I'm gonna work on getting all those spot welds out, and I'll bring you back when I got some progress. Okay, there's pieces on the ground, so we were successful at removing that bottom flange. A couple holes drilled, and a couple times I found it easier just to take the cutoff wheel and kind of ride the bottom edge of this flange and just plunge. So now I'm gonna get my cab mount fitted up, see what it looks like right now. I expect I'll have to tweak it a little bit. That's what I had to do with that one last time. Last time I had like a floor jack right underneath that bottom edge, and I actually used self-tappers to sink it to the floor pan, and then eventually, you know, we took care of it just like that, drilling through pre-drilling holes for the plug welds. And you can see that turned out great. So we got to repeat the same thing on this side now. There's a reason I drew this weird little diagram before I cut the original stuff off, because I got this pretty much, you know, it's basically all the way over. I could probably bump it over maybe an 1/8 inch right here, maybe. But other than that, I got the flange here clamped, and I got it propped up with some wood. It's not great, but this is fine. This is the easy part, because that just needs bent in like that. No big deal. It's just kind of where it went. Clamped it in place, and then check measurements. So first one I have 8 7/8 from the flange to my screw for inspection cover. Good news. You can see the 9-inch mark. Looks like it's right there. So that's good. And then the other one, I actually made a note that I used a level. And basically what I did was I hold it so it's nice and flat on here. And then I took my tape and I hooked it on this outside edge and drew it in here. And the center of that hole needs to be at 9 inches, and it's right at 9 inches. So now I got side to side location, and we got the height right. I do have another marking. I just got to check it real quick. That's what this white mark is. It's actually where I put a level. It should be, basically when it hits the front edge of this should be level. Let's see, there we go. I'm gonna call that good. That's close enough. There we go. So it's time about running self-tapping screws on this side too. So now I can either go from the top side, drill and do my welds, or do it down here. I prefer the top side, but you can do that if you want. This is my preferred method. But now I got that all locked in there, so all I gotta do is basically just weld it up. A little bit of drilling, more drilling, welding, 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 hammer, welding, welding, removing screws, grinder, more welding, 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 remove a couple screws, keep welding over and over, just keep repeating until everything's all good. A little bit of wood and a jack underneath, close everything up on the bottom. Yeah, more screws, drilling, welding, remove the screws, weld the holes shut. Welding, welding, and that's it. I just got done welding in the cab mount. I'm pointing on my plug welds here. You saw I was using my self-tapping screws. They're very helpful to help, squeeze everything together. So I just use those, get everything very close. And then I drill my, pre-drill my holes for these plug welds here. And same thing down here. And then we got that all tucked up. So that looks brand new. And then I worked a little bit on top of this firewall lip here. As I mentioned before, from about here down, I just have to cut out a strip and then a small strip there. So I'll do that fairly soon. I still have to finish welding in all this completely, but I just really wanted to get this on there. That way, I don't know, it just made me feel better. Pretty happy with it. That's a good accomplishment. I kind of skipped ahead a little bit. I got floor, that's all tied in now. I got that whole patch. I had this one, that's all there. I'm still gonna knock down a little bit of welds here, but the same spot that was on the other side too. So I'll have to re-drill a hole and everything like that, but I have to fix it from underneath as well. Which in this case, I'll be planning to roll the cab back and actually get under it to do all that stuff. And then the other thing I got too is that firewall. There's no hole there anymore. So I just got done doing that. Doesn't need to be pretty. All that stuff's gonna get knocked down anyways, but so I bent this piece of my vise and rolled that edge up as well. So it's got this. Just like that. And there's some goobers here I had to fill because there was a big gap and whatnot, but that's okay. And then I actually started cutting this away and I didn't need to, so I just welded it back. So all that stuff just needs to get knocked down flat, and then eventually it'll be how it was from the factory, which was, it had a bunch of seam sealer in here. This whole thing was just like smeared. So you won't see it anyways. So that's good. So I'm just gonna finish knocking this down. I only knocked this stuff here down a little bit. I just gotta do here and this little sliver. And then same thing like that side. I just kind of threw primer and some black paint, whatever I had at the time. And then down the road, I'll figure out if I'm gonna do the Eastwood rust encapsulator or something different. But other than that, it pretty much wraps up the floor for up, in the cab, which is great. I'm actually done with it. There's nothing in the middle. Actually, this whole center section's in very, very good shape. So we fixed all this stuff. Eventually I'll get to the rockers, But right now I wanted to get the floor done because I do plan on putting this on the cab to save room. So that's why I want to get this stuff taken care of and get upside down and finish that, because I can do this with it on the frame. But anyways, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for here. You all can take something away from it, whether it's something I did wrong or maybe something helps you out. Either way. Yeah, if you liked the video, hit the thumbs up and hit the notification button as well, because there'll be plenty more coming your way regarding rust repair and this project alone. And also, if you haven't already, please subscribe. And other than that, I mean, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.